And we are live. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Fresh Fit Podcast, man. We got a special episode for you guys today. We're here with Scott Ritter. We got a lot to talk about with geopolitics, the Russia-Ukraine war. Let's get into it.
Let's go.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Fresh Fit Podcast, man. We are here with Scott Ritter. I'm really excited for this conversation, man. It's going to be a high IQ conversation. We're going to talk about geopolitics, the Russia-Ukraine war, foreign policy. All that stuff is going to be talked about today. But real quick, before we get into it, rumble.com/freshfit. As you guys know, we make content that isn't necessarily safe for the internet. We give you all content on how to get girls, geopolitics, making money, real estate investing, cryptocurrency, everything when it comes to becoming the best womanizer that you can be. So check us out over there at rumble.com/freshfit when that day comes, if we do get canceled. Also, freshfit.locals.com. We're basically live streaming the pre-streams basically for the after hour show. If you guys want to get to see behind the scenes stuff, whatever it may be, some of the shenanigans that goes on behind the scenes, especially with Chris reminding the girls that he's been a teacher for the 100th, 20th time.
I mean,
go check us out, freshfit.locals.com. It feels good to be on a Thursday, actually. I feel like we're back in 2021. I don't know if y'all are.
Listen, we used to film 7 days a week.
Yeah.
2 to 3 shows a day.
Yeah. This is like
crazy,
OG
man.
Fresh and Fit right here, man. We got y'all giving you guys this value. And then also get the merch. Fresh and Fit store.com.
Isn't that a better website? It's more streamlined.
It is better.
To the
Shout
point.
out to Fresh for coming up with that better name. And then also, guys, check out the Clips channel as well, where we post clips on there, 6 to 7 clips per day, a bunch of shorts. Then we got a whole other Clips channel called More Fresh and Fit Clips. Guys, go check that one out. We just literally got it monetized, so now finally the videos are going to start to be able to be pushed. So go subscribe to that channel, man. Show support. And yeah, man, we're going to keep pumping out content for y'all.
Yep.
And then also, guys, check us out on Spotify. As you guys know, we got the video version and the audio version of that podcast. Mo's uploading on there, pretty much daily?
Yeah.
Mo's on there daily. All right,
the latest episode already there.
All right, cool. He said the latest episodes there. And then Fresh, you want to talk about your vlog real quick?
Yes, guys. So for lifestyle vlogs, more networking business vlogs, go check it out. Our Colombia trip will be recorded on the vlog channel as well.
Yes.
So go check it out. And as well, guys, Secret Order. No, the Secret Order meetup is going to be in Colombia as well in July. So go tap into that as well. My bad. That's up there.
Chris is in the back going crazy.
No, Chris was like, yeah, well, the Fresh don't stutter no more, Chris.
I had to mess up. There you go.
That was only one day, nigga.
Okay. Scott's like, what the fuck did I get myself into? What's going on?
He's like, damn it.
Hey, guys, go check out my other YouTube channel. Family case on there. I did the Wind Up Melly review earlier this morning, but I had to get some sleep for this show. Obviously, I didn't sleep. I did like all the streams, didn't, went to the gym, then did another stream. So whatever, go check it out. And then also, what I'll probably do for you guys, shout out to my guy Ryan Dawson. We're going to cover 9/11 with him tomorrow. I'll probably go ahead and drop Numec for you guys on Fed Reacts. It got approved. I'm like shocked. So yeah, I'll put that on there for y'all. It's going to talk about how a certain state that won't be named because we're on YouTube stole the nuclear bomb from the United States. So we're talking about that and was involved in John F. Kennedy's death, which Scott definitely knows about. What, the crazy accusations?
No, I'm just saying it's on YouTube.
I know you ain't talking, bro. You mentioned that yesterday on the show.
I just said the state.
No, nigga, you said, it's steal our technology.
I did.
To the girl. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
From that homeland.
Well, to be fair though, the contact wasn't even there, so I feel like it wasn't important.
You were like, bro, they steal our technology, blah blah blah, and you went in whatever.
So maybe they didn't.
Fuck all that. We got a special guest now, Scott.
Welcome.
We're happy to have you, Scott. I know who you are, but the audience might not know who you are. Can you please introduce yourself to the people, your background, what you used to do?
Well, I call myself a child of the Cold War. My parents were career Air Force officers. My mom was a nurse. My dad was in aircraft maintenance. Spent 26 years serving our country, much of it overseas. I went to high school in three different places. Hawaii, Turkey, and Germany. I graduated from Kaiserslautern American High School in 1979, enlisted in the U.S. Army so I could go off and kill communists. went to college, majored in Russian history, got commissioned in the United States Marine Corps, became an intelligence officer. And in 1988, I was assigned to what's called the On-Site Inspection Agency, a Department of Defense activity created to implement the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty, which was signed in December of 1987 by Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev. This eliminated intermediate and short-range nuclear missiles. It's the first ever treaty to get rid of nuclear weapons. And I was the first inspector on the ground in the Soviet Union to do it. That's my claim to fame. I did that for 2 years, and then went back to the Marine Corps.
As a UN inspector for 2 years?
No, this is American.
Okay.
As a Marine Corps officer serving in a Department of Defense activity. I went back to the Marine Corps, and right in time for Saddam Hussein to invade Iraq.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up on General Norman Schwarzkopf's staff as an intelligence officer. Because of my experience with missiles, I got involved in the Counter Scud campaign. I worked with Special Forces, American Delta Force, SEALs, British SAS, and others to try and interdict Iraqi Scud missiles before they could be fired against Israel or the Persian Gulf countries. The war ended. I had what they call a good war, meaning I didn't get killed and had a good reputation. But my time in the Marine Corps was over. I joined to kill communists. When I said that the first time, I wasn't joking. I joined because the evil empire was there, and I wanted to close with and destroy the communist enemy through firepower maneuver. The Cold War ended. Soviet Union collapsed. It was over. So I left the Marine Corps only to get the phone call in August from the United Nations saying, not so, that line from The Godfather, every time I want to leave, they just reach in and they drag me back. And that's what happened. They called up and they said, nah, not so fast. We need you to come to the United Nations, set up an intelligence unit there to do to find where Iraq is hiding weapons and to get inspection teams on target. And I did that job for 7 years. I was
so you were involved in finding the weapons of mass destruction?
Well, except that in the beginning they were weapons of mass destruction. I mean, what people don't realize is Iraq was overflowing with weapons of mass destruction. And when the war ended, they were obligated to declare the totality of their weapons of mass destruction to the United Nations, and weapons inspection teams would go in, verify the accuracy of the declaration, then oversee the destruction. The original teams were composed of honest to goodness experts, chemical weapons experts, biological weapons experts, nuclear missile guys. I'm none of that. I'm just a simple Marine. But the Iraqis lied. They declared less than half of their chemical weapons capability. They declared less than half of their missiles. They denied having a biological capability or a nuclear capability. And so we're in a quandary. What do you do? So that's where I came in. I created an intelligence unit whose job was to find the hidden stuff. I worked with all the intelligence agencies in the world, the CIA, British MI6, Israeli Mossad, you name it, I worked with them. And then I helped gather that intelligence and turn it into what we call, it's actionable intelligence. Now, where on the ground we're going to go. And then I would lead the inspection teams into Iraq to find this stuff. And that's how we got rid of them. It wasn't that the Iraqis never had them. It's that people like me and the inspectors I worked with did a damn good job in hunting them down and disposing of them.
So Iraq actually did have weapons then?
Absolutely.
Contrary to popular belief. Because they always say, we invaded for no reason. They didn't have any weapons of mass destruction.
Well, they didn't have them when we invaded. That's what I'm trying to say, is that we, the inspectors, we got rid of them. We compelled the Iraqis to destroy them. We investigated.
Prior to us going in there.
The problem was, and this is the kicker. I thought that my job was to get rid of weapons of mass destruction, because that's what the United Nations resolution said our job was to do. I didn't realize that my government wanted something different. They wanted Saddam Hussein gone, and that they were using the inspectors not to get rid of the weapons, but to put pressure on Saddam to collect intelligence on Saddam so that Saddam could be assassinated or driven out of power. And so while I was a weapons inspector, I was actually fighting a war on two fronts. I would lead inspection teams into Iraq and find evidence that they are being disarmed. Then I would come back to the United States and have to go to war against the CIA, who were saying, no, we don't want this. To give you an example.
You were literally caught right in the middle.
Right in the middle, ping pong, ping pong, ping pong. So when, to give you an example, I did a series of inspections to uncover Iraq's ballistic missiles. And I succeeded. We found them. The Iraqis had to give them up. We disposed of them. And I went back and I briefed the director of the CIA. I said, they're all gone. And he said, well, no, we have some intelligence that that they're hiding some underground. I was like, well, that's funny because we've accounted for them all. He said, no, they're underground. So I had to do another inspection. This one I called his bluff. I said, well, if they're underground, I'm going to need ground penetrating radar. He said, okay. And I said, it's going to have to be airborne because we have to get there fast before the Iraqis respond. He said, okay. So $12.5 million later, we got ground penetrating radar made especially for us, mounted on helicopters that I took into Iraq to look for the buried missiles, which didn't exist. So now we come back and we report again to the CIA and say, they're all gone. They're finished. The CIA came back and said, yeah, nice try. But our number now is that they have between 12 and 20. And that number will never change, no matter what you do.
Wow.
And that number didn't change. When we invaded Iraq in 2003, the CIA was still claiming that they had 12 and 20. Now, here's the deal.
Wow.
Not only that, but for instance, we weren't just looking for the weapons, but we were also trying to find out what happened to the weapons because the Iraqis destroyed a lot of weapons, blew them up, and we were trying to forensically reconstruct this. So I'm on a document search, et cetera. I need to investigate presidential security of Saddam Hussein because they were involved in this. And I did.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to their headquarters. We're talking showing up and getting guns put in our face.
Of course.
People, and we're like, no, we're not backing down. We're going to do this. When I led teams into Iraq, I always had some Delta Force guys embedded in the team. And they had a Delta Force squadron standing by to rescue us because we always assumed we were going to be taken
Super high
hostage.
risk, yeah.
Yeah. So this isn't like, geeky city. This is the real deal.
Of course.
And so we're doing this. Doing this. I had guys go in and we intercepted Saddam's securities communications, encrypted communications. I went to Israel, got them to break the code and read us the stuff. So we're getting close to finding the truth. And the U.S. says, no, we don't want the truth. And they shut my operation down.
Wow.
And that's when I resigned. The day I resigned, I was.
What year was this when you left?
I left in August of 1998.
This is and then for the audience, this is well before 9/11. This is well before we invaded Iraq in 2003. So you're saying they were disarmed since the late 90s?
They were disarmed since probably 1995, 1996.
What a fucking bombshell, dude.
So so now I get called into the CIA, and this is a guy. I can say his name now because it's
declassified, probably.
Larry Sanchez.
Yeah.
And Larry Sanchez, from 1994 until 1998, was the senior liaison of the CIA with the inspection teams. And he and I had a pretty good working relationship. We trusted each other. And so he called me and he said, hey, before you resign, somebody in the National Security Council wants to talk to you because they want to talk you out of it. I said, okay, I'll take the call. So I talked to the guy, and they basically said, if you resign, you'll destroy the inspections. You have to stay. And I said, you're destroying the inspections. The inspections are about doing what the Security Council of the United Nations tells them to do, not what the United States says behind the scenes. Our job is to disarm. You have to let me finish the job or I can't stay on. He said, no, well, we're not going to change the way we're doing business. So I left. I hung up. Larry Sanchez turned to me. What's the rating of the show? What can I say?
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. He turned to me and he said, Scott, we're friends. We've been friends for a long time. But if you turn in that letter of resignation, I can never talk to you again. He said, not only that, the FBI is going to fuck you in the ass. The FBI is going to hunt you down. They're going to ruin your life. They're going to ruin your family's life. They're going to make your life a living hell. He said, so think twice about it. And I said, well, you want me to back down because of that? My job is to defend the truth. I'm doing the right thing. I'm speaking out for truth. And he said, don't say I didn't warn you.
Yeah.
And the FBI has been trying to fuck me in the ass ever since. But I feel like I had a duty to go out and speak out because we ended up going to war in Iraq over weapons of mass destruction.
Yes. Yeah.
And the point is, I'm trying to tell you, as of 1998, I was trying to make the case that if you're going to say they have weapons of mass destruction, then you have to let me do my job.
Yeah.
But you can't use my job to go to war. You have to use my job to disarm.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to let me disarm, then I can't be part of this mission.
Yeah.
And then later on, when they kept pushing this stuff, I had to tell the truth. I said, look, the United States isn't here to disarm Iraq. They're here to get rid of Saddam Hussein.
Yeah.
That there aren't weapons of mass destruction. We got rid of the weapons of mass destruction. Whatever we don't have is so small, so minuscule, so dated. To give you an example, there's certain, biological weapons.
Yeah.
Remember Colin Powell putting up that white vial?
Yes.
This can kill the world.
Yes.
Well, it's horseshit. Why? Because first of all, the Iraqis never produced dry powdered anthrax. What they made was wet sludge, basically a slurry. Now, here's the interesting, they have growth media that they put in Petri dishes, biological production scale, produce it up, and you get this sludge.
And this is the same anthrax that hit us after 9/11, right?
No, the anthrax that hit us after 11 was the white powder.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
That's
this
what
stuff-
Colin Powell was talking about. Okay.
Yeah, this stuff is basically mud.
Okay.
All right. And they put the mud in a warhead, and they said that's a biological warhead. That's a biological weapon. I said that's not. That's sludge in a metal canister. You fire it. The only way it's going to kill you is if it hits you in the head. Because if it lands next to you on the ground and bursts open, the sludge is just going to go into the ground. Unless you get on your hands and knees and eat it, you're not going to die. So the Iraqis never had a real biological weapons program, but that sludge there only has a limited shelf life. So let's say they hid some of it from us in 1991.
Yeah.
By 1995, it's no good. It's turned into just pure mud.
Okay.
And we know they didn't produce any more.
Has a shelf life? to produce?
Absolute shelf life. Same thing with the chemical weapons. You know, so in 1998, when they're saying Iraq has this, Iraq has that, we're going, well, we can't prove that they destroyed everything. We can prove they destroyed 97%.
Yeah.
But the stuff that we can't find, I can guarantee you by science that it's useless.
Yeah.
It's meaningless. So why are we treating it as if it's a real weapon?
Yeah.
Because the Security Council says 100%. Okay, I would accept that if you would accept that when we find 100%, like we did with the missiles, you would lift the sanctions on Iraq and bring them back in, as the deal is.
Because that was because that was the whole purpose.
That was
why
the
they
deal.
even allowed you guys to come in there was to lift the sanctions
Lift
so
the
they can be
sanctions.
a part of the economy and make money and not be broke and poor.
And yet we had repeated secretaries of state, starting with James Baker in 1992, going on to Madeleine Albright, saying that even if Iraq complies with its obligation to disarm, economic sanctions will never be lifted until Saddam Hussein is removed from power. It was always a setup. It was always a scam.
Why was the U.S. because we got a lot of guys here that might be younger, they might not even remember or know who Saddam Hussein is. Why was the U.S. so hell bent on getting him out of power?
Well, there was once upon a time, Saddam was our friend. In fact, if you go back and you Google Donald Rumsfeld and Saddam Hussein,
Didn't he get a key to the city of Detroit?
well, I don't know about
Something like that.
Well, Donald Rumsfeld went there and shook his hand.
Okay.
And we gave Saddam Hussein $1 billion loans so he could buy weapons of mass destruction and other things. You know, it's funny how we condemn him for using chemical weapons, but I used to debrief a defector named Wafiq Samurai. He was the head of Iraqi intelligence, and he would tell me stories about how American specialists from the Defense Intelligence Agency and the CIA would come to Baghdad and show him the best ways to use chemical weapons in their offenses against the Iranians, especially the Al Faw offensive at the end. Al Faw is a peninsula at the end of the Shatt el Arab waterway that the Iranians had crossed over and dug in on, and the Iraqis broke their back by using chemical weapons. We're the ones that gave them the satellite imagery that showed the Iranian force disposition and all that. So we helped them use chemical weapons. Some people say that we gave them the money to help them buy the precursors that made the chemical weapons. And then we turn around and condemn them for having chemical weapons. Now, I'm not saying that Saddam should have them. I'm just saying how hypocritical can we be? But what happened is, at the end of the Iran-Iraq war, Iraq was sort of emboldened. They felt like they had stood up to Iran and indeed Israel and the rest of the world. And so they were filling their oats. And so what they said is that their weapons of mass destruction programs weren't just to deter Iranian aggression. They said it's to deter Israeli aggression. And that's when the Americans went, oh, you can't say that. You're not allowed to do that. And when Israel in the summer of 1990 said they were threatening to hit the Iranian nuclear program, bomb it again, the Iraqis said, if you do that, we'll burn half of Israel with our chemical weapons. That's our deterrence. And that's when America went, we got a problem here. Then Saddam invades Kuwait and
put Saudi Arabia in a tough spot.
Put Saudi Arabia in a tough spot, put the world oil community. But let's talk about why he invaded Kuwait, because everybody's just like, well, Saddam's a brutal aggressor, he invaded Kuwait. Yeah, you see, Kuwait during the 8-year Iran-Iraq war was doing slant drilling. That means you set up a drill rig in Kuwaiti soil and you drill across the border into the oil reservoir on our Iraq side, and they're stealing billions of dollars worth of Iraqi oil. Now, the Iraqis let them do it because they're at war. Then the Kuwaitis turn around and they loan Iraq $20 billion. And
wait, so Iraq let Kuwait do it?
Well, they were at war, so they were like,
oh, they didn't have the time to deal with it.
Yeah, we're not going to deal with it now.
We're fighting.
But then after war, what they told the Kuwaitis is, we got all it's called the London Group of Banks who are coming at us for these loans, but you're stealing our oil and dumping it on the economy. on the market, and you're depressing the price of oil down to $14 a barrel, and now we can't make enough money to pay off the loans.
Okay.
We need you to stop doing this. This is economic warfare.
Mhm.
And America told the Kuwaitis, no, keep going, keep going, keep going.
Yeah.
And so the
Wow.
Kuwaitis
Because
were
we
like,
benefit.
yeah,
from
no, we're going to do it. So they kept going. The Iraqis said, you guys don't seem to understand. They called together the Arab League in July of 1990, and they said, guys, this is serious. If they keep doing this, we'll have no choice but to invade them.
Mhm.
Tell them to stop. Arab League said nothing. So in August,
is Arab League, what countries are? I'm assuming all the
main
countries.
Arab, all the
Sudan, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan. Okay.
Algeria, the whole thing.
Yeah.
So the Iraqis go into Kuwait in August of 1990. They said, "The hell with you. We're finishing this thing." But again, it's people say it was Saddam just decided to wake up one morning and invade Kuwait. That's not how it was.
Mhm.
But now he invades Kuwait, and George Herbert Walker Bush, W's father,
Yes.
gets out, and when
George Senior,
and when he gets out, he's trying to explain to the American people why we have to get ready to go to war. And he said it's about oil.
Yeah.
And the American people went, we ain't buying that oil war. We're not doing it.
Yeah.
And he went, oops, we can't talk about oil anymore. Let's talk about something else, something else. So that's when they started bringing in the Kuwaiti ambassador's daughter, who testified before Congress claiming that she saw Iraqi soldiers ripping Kuwaiti children out of their incubators and killing them. All a lie, 100% lies. We just started creating the image of the evil. Now, I'm not saying Saddam's a good guy. I'm not saying, I'm just saying that
he did his fucked up shit, but
we had a PR campaign. Just remember, as bad as he was shaking Donald Rumsfeld's hand, and he was considered the best friend of America in the mid 1980s.
Wow.
Suddenly in 1990, we had to turn him into, and this is what happened. In a fundraiser, I believe in Dallas, Texas, George Herbert Walker Bush called Saddam Hussein the Middle East equivalent of Adolf Hitler, who must have Nuremberg-like retribution, which means now that you called him Hitler, you have to get rid of him. How can you let Hitler live?
Yeah.
And you have to bring him to trial. So now we go to war, and I was in that war. We fought it. And I can tell you, we had a plan to get rid of Saddam. I can also tell you here, I was tasked, there was a week of my time in the war where my job was to assassinate Saddam Hussein.
Wow.
I was given targets. I had to verify the targets and then turn them over to the Air Force, and we were dropping bombs on targets to kill Saddam. We were actively going after the guy. But when the war ended, it ended because...
What year did it end?
It ended in late February of 91.
Okay.
It was a very short war.
Yeah.
It started on January 17th of 91, ended on February 29th or 28th, around there. But it ended because basically
he pulled out of Kuwait.
Well, he started retreating. And what do you do when you have a column of enemy equipment on a highway? You bomb the lead vehicle, you bomb the rear vehicle, so the column can't move.
Yeah.
And then you kill everything in between.
Yep.
And from a military perspective, it's beautiful, baby. It's beautiful because that's what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
That's what war is all about.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, CNN now is filming this, and it became bad TV.
Oh.
They're calling it the highway of death. We're murdering the Iraqis. Well, it's war. Murder away. I mean, these are the guys that raped Kuwait, occupied Kuwait. All those vehicles were full of stolen goods they were taking out of Kuwait. No sympathy for the men in that column. Kill them all. But we stopped. When the war started, when I got the op order on day one, I opened it up. It said that the strategic objective, the center of gravity, was Saddam Hussein's Republican Guard. About 6 divisions that he had there, elite forces that propped him up, kept him in. We said we must destroy the Republican Guard so that Saddam Hussein collapses, because he's Adolf Hitler, he has to collapse.
Of course.
But because of the highway of death, the rest of the battle, bringing the pincers in, surrounding the Republican Guard, we were literally 36 hours away from killing them all, 30, 40,000. And believe me, I wanted them all dead. That's what needed to happen. But Colin Powell went, no, this is bad TV, bad imagery. We stopped right before we finished the job.
Oh, wow.
And those divisions went away and suppressed the Kurdish uprising in the north, the Shia uprising in the south, and they kept Saddam Hussein in power. So we had a chance
to get rid of him back in the 90s.
But we didn't. So now,
fast forward.
Now we have a situation where George Herbert Walker Bush, who called Saddam Hussein Hitler, the war ends and Hitler's still alive.
Yeah.
So now the question is, how do we do this? So the CIA came in and briefed. They said, Saddam's in a very weak position right now. His military has just been destroyed. His economy is in tatters. The only thing he has going for him is these weapons of mass destruction. So what we need to do is get rid of them, and then Saddam will collapse. We want Saddam gone. So they created the weapons inspectors to go in to put at risk the third pillar of power, the weapons of mass destruction. But there was no end game. They created us, but they never expected us to finish the job. Our job was to go in and go through the motions of challenging the weapons of mass destruction. Then 6 months later, Saddam was supposed to go bye-bye. 6 months goes by and he's still there. And now he's challenging the inspectors. And that's when I came in. We had to change the game 6 months later because Saddam wasn't going anywhere. And believe me, while I was a weapons inspector, I'll give you two instances. In the summer of 1996, we believed that they were hiding documents and material in Special Republican Guard units around Baghdad International Airport, because that's sort of a fortified zone.
Yeah.
And so what we also believed that they would evacuate them up to Tikrit, which is Saddam Hussein's birthplace, where he had other palaces. So if we stressed them, they would retreat to Tikrit. So we put in place systems to detect this movement.
Yeah.
And we're going in to surround it and all this stuff. And I'm building this big inspection team to go in. And I told you I had a close relationship with the CIA. We had about a dozen CIA guys on our team, paramilitary guys, who are logistics and communications guys.
Yeah.
What I didn't realize is that they had another job. There was a coup being plotted, built around my inspection. My team was supposed to come in and surround Special Republican Guard facilities, freeze them in place, and then create an incident. And as we're pulled out, cruise missiles would come in and destroy these facilities. There was one unit, the 3rd Battalion of the Special Republican Guard, that I wanted to inspect, but it was sort of outside the palace area. The CIA said, "Don't worry about that unit. It's okay, but it's not a big deal." I said, "But we said we're going to inspect them all. We have to inspect this one. Don't worry about it." Well, the reason why is that was their unit. They had bought the officers. That was the unit that was going to go kill Saddam.
Yeah.
But the problem is the Iraqis have good intelligence.
Yeah.
And they broke into the CIA plot and they knew everything.
Yeah.
And when the time came, instead of a coup taking place, they pulled the guys out, they popped them all in the head, then they called up the CIA guy on their own satellite communication system and said, "It's all over, guys, goodbye." And they hung up. Now that's cool if you're an Iraqi. It's bad if you're the CIA. But imagine me as an inspector
Puts
being
you
in the middle
really
of this,
weird spot.
and the Iraqis are looking at me going, "What were you doing?"
Yeah.
I said, "I didn't know anything about it."
Yeah.
And they said, "You're an American. You're an intelligence officer. These guys worked for you." And that really
because they don't know the difference between a Marine and the CIA. They don't know the difference.
They don't know the difference between an American's an American is an American.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, just so people understand, I'm as American as you get.
Of course.
You won't meet a more patriotic person than me. But when I joined the weapons inspection team, I went down to Washington, D.C., and I demanded a meeting at the State Department with the State Department, the CIA, the Defense Department, all the players.
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay, I'm going to come in, I'm going to create this intelligence unit. I need to know the rule of the game. I need to know the rules. Is this a wink, wink, nod, nod thing? Meaning that we're going to do something, but really something else is happening?
Yeah.
You have to tell me up front."
That's crazy. They didn't tell you.
No, what they said is, no. We insist that you comply with Security Council resolutions. You're going to build a unit and you work for the executive chairman. You work for the United Nations. And I said, "You guys understand that once you tell me this, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
That's my mission." They said, "That's what we want you to do."
So is that normal where, like, for example, you have a plan of action that they tell you to do, and then they bring in outside people to make this other alternate plan? Is that normal to happen?
For the CIA, it's normal. Yeah. What I learned about the CIA, with all due respect to all the CIA guys listening, you know what I'm saying is true. They lie, they cheat, they steal. That's what they do for a living. They can't be trusted. If you're in the CIA and you got the secret decoder ring, then you're part of the team. But if you're outside the CIA, even if you're an American, even if you're a loyal American, even if you're a loyal American who's gone to war for his country, you're not part of the team.
Yeah.
And the CIA spent that meeting took place in October of 1991. And I spent the next 7 years beating my head against the wall, going to war against the CIA for this. The last story I'll tell you, the Iraqis kicked me out, my inspection team out in January of 1998, accused me of being a CIA officer, the whole works. And they said, "We're not going to work with Ritter ever again because he's evil."
Yeah.
Now, we can't allow that to happen because that means the Iraqis are dictating who gets to be on inspection teams.
Yeah.
So there's a big rigmarole, the challenge. And I was tasked with leading an inspection team back in to challenge the Iraqis. The Iraqis had agreed to certain rules and stuff. A challenge inspection. I went to the White House and I briefed the White House on the inspection concept of operations. I went to the State Department, briefed that. We briefed it to Pentagon, and finally, we're at the U.S. Mission in New York, where Ambassador Bill Richardson's at. He's the head ambassador. He's there. His deputy's there. The CIA's there. My boss, Richard Butler's there.